In a poor industrial town, where factory smokestacks release thick black smoke day and night, Elena, a 30-year-old single mother, is struggling in a reality with no way out. She works the night shift as a sales clerk at a convenience store that serves factory workers. Every evening when the city lights turn on at 8 p.m., she begins her 10-hour shift. At 6 a.m. the next morning, when the first rays of sunlight begin to appear, Elena finally leaves the store in a state of complete exhaustion, her eyes red from lack of sleep, and her legs aching after standing behind the counter all night. Elena's meager salary is barely enough to sustain herself and her two young children, Leo, 6 years old, and Mia, 4 years old. The three of them squeeze into a cramped rented room where the electric fan has long been broken and the only light bulb frequently flickers whenever the power weakens. Elena sleeps on a thin mattress laid directly on the floor. Her clothes are worn out, her shoes have holes in them, but the greatest pain is not poverty, it is the feeling of being stuck. Every morning as she walks home past the town slowly waking up, Elena sees other people's lives through their windows, families gathered around breakfast tables, children being taken to school by their parents in clean uniforms. She asks herself, is this going to be my life forever? I have to go to sleep just as my children wake up and the world begins living out their dreams. She feels as though she is living opposite to the world moves forward while she sleeps from 7 a.m. until late afternoon to recover from her night shift. She is not lazy. She works hard staying awake all night to serve customers, yet that simple hard work changes nothing. Tragedy strikes on a cold November morning when Elena receives notice from the school that Leo will be suspended if she does not pay the additional fees and the medical expenses for Mia, who is suffering from malnutrition. Looking at her hands that have worked tirelessly yet still cannot provide a decent life for her children, Elena feels anger rising from within at her own helplessness. Standing on the balcony at exactly 5:00 a.m., watching the first farmers head to the fields, and hearing the birds begin to sing, she makes a firm decision. This cannot continue. She vows to find a way out of this vicious cycle. On the bus back to the city, Elena happens to sit across from Mr. Chun, a successful businessman calmly reading a book at 6 a.m. The contrast between his refreshed appearance and her worn face is striking. When Elena gathers the courage to ask why a wealthy man like him wakes up so early, Mr. Chun looks at her and says, "You wake when the world sleeps and sleep when the world works. No wonder you are stuck." He reveals a secret that changed his life. The time between 5:00 a.m. and 7:00 a.m. is the magic hours. It is when a person can build the foundation for the future while everyone else is still dreaming. This encounter ignites a new spark of hope in Elena, a chance to reclaim her life for the sake of her children's future. After the fateful meeting with Mr. Chun, Elena felt a spark of hope igniting amid the overwhelming despair. That very evening, she called the number on the business card. The next morning, she met him again at a small cafe. Mr. Chun looked at her with approval because she had truly taken action instead of merely talking. He took out a notebook, drew a picture of a house, and explained that her current life was like a collapsing house because she was too busy surviving to build a foundation. Mr. Chun emphasized that the time from 5:00 a.m. to 7:00 a.m. was the magic hours to build that foundation. He presented numbers that astonished Elena. 2 hours each morning equals 14 hours a week and 730 hours a year. In 1 year you will gain 3 extra months of full-time work that others have wasted, he said. To achieve that, Elena had to strictly follow a non-negotiable system. First hour, 5:00 to 6:00 skill building. She must learn a practical skill to change her financial situation. Absolutely no scrolling on her phone or watching TV. Second hour, 6:00 to 7:00, train the body and mind. 30 minutes of exercise to keep the body's machine strong, and 30 minutes to read or plan. Mr. Chun gave 3 iron rules. No negotiation, even on weekends. Sleep at 9:00 p.m. to ensure 7.5 hours of rest and survive the painful first week. He warned, "The first week will be hell. Your body will hate you, your mind will create thousands of excuses to quit." But if she passed 21 days, the habit would feel normal, and after 90 days, it would become part of who she was. Elena accepted the challenge. The next morning the alarm rang at 5:00 a.m., like a bucket of cold water. Her entire body protested after a tiring night shift. Her mind whispered, "Just one more hour, your children aren't awake yet." But the image of Leo at risk of suspension and her own wrinkled, overworked hands pushed her out of bed. She cleared a small corner of the table and fixed her eyes on free Excel and accounting tutorial videos on YouTube. Her eyes burned, and her brain sometimes felt foggy from complex numbers and formulas. At 6:00 a.m., she forced herself to walk briskly around the neighborhood to stay alert, then spent the remaining time reading about bookkeeping rules. After that, she prepared breakfast for her children before school, then slept from 7:30 a.m. until around 2:00 p.m. before getting ready for her next shift. The first week was truly a lonely form of self-discipline. However, on the 20th day, something remarkable happened. Elena woke up at 4:58 a.m., just 2 minutes before the alarm. Her body had begun to adapt. Excel functions started to make sense, and her confidence grew each time she watched the bright sunrise. She no longer felt she was living opposite to the world, but quietly building a new path for herself and her children. Entering the second and third months of her journey, Elena was no longer the exhausted, worn-out mother she once was. By maintaining the habit of walking 30 minutes every morning, her body became stronger, her mind sharper, and her confidence began to grow. She completed online accounting certifications and mastered complex Excel functions during the magic hours from 5:00 to 6:00 a.m. Instead of merely scanning barcodes passively, Elena started observing how the store operated. In the third month, she independently built a professional Excel spreadsheet to manage inventory and track daily revenue, a task her manager had been handling manually and often inaccurately. When she presented this system, her manager was deeply impressed. On the 87th day of her journey, Elena received a life-changing offer, an accounting position at the company's head office with double the salary, and most importantly, regular daytime working hours. She stood speechless. From a hopeless night shift worker, she could now be with her children at every dinner. That very evening, Elena called Mr. Chun to share the good news. His voice was warm. "I knew you could do it. Now remember, waking up at 5:00 a.m. is no longer a strategy, it is your life." Elena firmly affirmed that she would never return to her old path because waking up early had become part of who she was. 1 year later, Elena had moved into a decent 2-bedroom apartment where Leo and Mia each had their own space to study. She still woke up at 5:00 a.m. every day, not because she had to, but because those 2 hours were sacred time for her to learn more about business management and plan her children's future. When friends asked why she continued waking early even after becoming stable, Elena smiled. Success is not a destination. It is a daily practice. She understood that the difference between her old position and her present one was not talent, but how she used her time while the world was still asleep. Winning the morning meant winning the day, and for Elena, dawn was the moment she built a strong foundation for her home.